hundreds of no-fee paying schools across Gauteng, many already serving struggling communities, are now at the risk of losing basic services like electricity and water. This comes after the Provincial Department of Education reversed the 2024 policy that shifted responsibility for municipal utility bills away from schools. So without warning, many schools governing bodies were informed that they now must cover bills and old bills dating months back. And in some cases, the debts are running into the millions. So if you think about El Dorado Park alone, 34 schools have been affected, and similar situations are unfolding in Tshwane and in Cosmo City. So today we will speak to Gauteng Education Spokesperson Steve Mabona, as well as Sérgio dos Santos from the Education Portfolio. What is this message? We can speak to... Okay, no problem. Let's speak to Sérgio dos Santos first. Sérgio, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. What do you make of this story? I mean, you've raised concerns about timing of this directives in the schools that, the oversight areas you hold. How do their timelines compare to the department's version of events?
Yeah, good afternoon to you and to your listeners. Look, from the DA side, we've demanded that the GD immediately suspend this decision, mostly because of the historical municipal debt that has been now on the schools to actually pay off. Now, this decision disproportionately affects vulnerable schools serving low-income communities. This story seems to be a lot larger than just El Dorado Park. Just yesterday, I had a couple of schools from Soweto approach me saying they've got a similar situation. Last week, Friday, I was approached by several schools in Tshwane, also in a similar situation. So I'll be doing oversight and looking into the situation. But basically, the biggest concern is that all the schools, and particularly in El Dorado Park, all the schools complained that they were not consulted with the function shift. That's number one. And number two is that the historical debt, and you've got some schools over 4 million rand that they're owing, which the department was meant to have been paying, is now the school's responsibility to pay. Now, in questions posed to the MEC last week for oral reply, the MEC said that they will work on ensuring that they pay off this historical debt. But the risk is still there. The debt is still there. Some schools have already received pre-termination notices. That means their water or electricity can be cut off at any time. City of Johannesburg has a habit, and not only City of Johannesburg, but other municipalities, but COJ especially has a habit of cutting both utilities, both electricity and water if you're only outstanding on electricity. So these schools are really under pressure. It's from an impoverished area. Majority of the whole of El Dorado Park is in poor state. Now you're expecting these schools that don't get school fees, even those that are considered as quintile 4, quintile 5, have very, very low collection rates of school fees, are now expected to pay these municipal bills.
Fees, yeah.
Yeah. And also just to finish off on this particular one is that the allocations provided by the department to pay the municipal utility bills does not cover the monthly costs of the accounts.
So you've submitted parliamentary questions on this already. What specifically are you hoping to challenge or uncover?
So we submitted questions to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. So the first set of questions was the written questions for oral reply, which I mentioned earlier, which the MEC did respond to last week. We've also submitted questions now with regards to the broader Gauteng, just to get an extent of how big this problem is. How many schools per municipality or per district has now been given this function shift, and what is the historical debt that will be that is imposed on the schools. So hopefully in next week's order paper it will appear there, and then we just have to wait for the actual written responses.
I know that this issue, I believe, is isolated to Gauteng, but are we seeing different patterns, or the same pattern rather, in other provinces?
At the moment, no. So I actually had engagements with some of my colleagues on Monday, and none of them actually raised this concern. So it looks like it's Gauteng specific, but I'm still doing a bit of homework with regards to the other provinces. But it definitely looks like it's Gauteng specific at the moment.
Okay, so, I mean, these are no-fee paying schools. And I wonder what this all says about the sustainability of no-fee schooling at all in historically disadvantaged areas, if now schools are also expected to carry infrastructure burdens.
100%. You know, as mentioned, the allocations provided to the schools is not sufficient to cover the monthly cost. So even some of the schools are already saying, like, we owe X amount of money, we don't need to, you know, this allocation that we've got for LTSM, we don't need it right now. You know, we tempted to remove this budget from LTSM, which is learner teacher material, and pay the municipal bills because, you know, we can't go without water, we can't go without electricity. So the issue of changing it is, you know, it's procedural fairness. There should have been consultation in terms of Section 121. There needs to be consultation with the SGBs. The SGBs have the opportunity in terms of Section 21 to appeal to the MEC. And the MEC's response last week is that he said, no, there was none. But I've seen letters from schools saying that, hey, you know, we don't agree to this function shift. You have not capacitated SGBs. You have not given the training to SGBs and the school to take on this new function.
Hang on, you're saying that when spoken to, the authorities said no letters had come to them, but the SGBs all said that some said that they have written letters.
Yes. There are schools that have written letters to the MEC to say that we are not happy with this function shift and it should not be with the school.
So no conversation happened after that?
Well, according to the MEC's response, is that there was no appeals on this.
Which isn't true.
Which isn't true because I've seen letters.
Yes. So what do you think is actually happening here, Sérgio?
Plain and simple, it's financial dumping. There is definitely, and that's, you know, with the questions that we're submitting, trying to build a picture as to the extent of this problem. We really want to assess the financial situation of the department. The fact remains is, in terms of the law, in terms of the SASSA Act, yes, function shifts can be shifted to the school. That's not an issue.
Okay.
The issue is, number one, is that you're doing it to no-fee paying schools. You got, and it's an issue that I've been running for a long time and I've been calling, that there needs to be a review of the quintile system. You've got schools that are quintile 4, quintile 5, which are technically school fee-paying schools, but are in areas or serve underprivileged children that have collection rates up as much as little as 10% collection rates.
Yeah.
And now you are imposing on the school to pay municipal bills with allocations that are considerably lower than what the monthly bills are, number one. You've given them historical outstanding debts, which there's no indication as to when it will be paid off. And also, in terms of the schools, have also complained that they have not received their full tranche of allocations to date.
Okay, if we had Steve Mabona right here from the Gauteng Education as the spokesperson, what would you like to ask him or pose to him?
I'd like to know, when were the schools properly consulted, each and every single school? And let's just focus on El Dorado Park for now, but as I say, this looks like it's a much broader problem. especially in Tshwane, because that's the majority of the schools that have complained. Last week Friday, and then again yesterday, Soweto. I would like to know, when were the engagements dealt with each and every school, and when did the SGB and the school agree to accept the function shifts, as well as when will the historical debts be paid off?
Perfect. He is on the line, but for some reason he didn't want to be on at the same time. So I'll make sure that I bring those questions over to Steve Mabona straight after our headline. Sérgio dos Santos, DAMPL, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
This is Power Lunch
with Pabi Moloi
on Power 98.7.
It is 12:33. Thank you very much to Power Headlines, making sure we know what's going on. Yakalotefo will be back again at 1 o'clock this afternoon for our Power News. We continue with this conversation about Gauteng Department being under fire for no-fee schools being saddled with millions in utility debt. We just spoke to Sérgio dos Santos from the Education Portfolio Committee, who had many questions for the Education Department. And on the line with us, we have Steve Mabona, who is the GDE spokesperson. Steve, thank you very much. I know that you heard what Sérgio had to say. That final question that he asked, when were the schools consulted in El Dorado Park and in Tshwane, etc. Secondarily to that, if we're talking about, shifting and changing how schools spend their money, if they have any at all, when were the engagements held with the SGBs, and when did the SGBs agree?
Good day, and to all our listeners, Pabi. No, Santos can't ask me questions. His peer is the MEC. They are both in the legislature. And he asked MEC the questions, and MEC responded. Now he come here, he failed to say on what is it that we said to them, and claim that he does not know.
No, he didn't say that. He claimed that the answer was that they received no pushback. People just agreed.
In terms of the legislation, the responsibility to pay municipal accounts may be allocated to SGB. Now, schools in El Dorado Park were previously granted with this function, but due to concerns of poor financial management, the department decided to take those responsibilities from the schools. So we've been interacting with the schools, and in 2023 already, about 6 fee-paying schools were informed that they will then be given their responsibilities. And then 9 no-fee-paying schools received a similar communication
in 2023 already.
The fee-paying, they received in 2023. The no-fee-paying, they received them in 2025. A notification that we're going to transfer those responsibilities to them.
So help me understand, is it a notification or is it a matter of an engagement and an agreement?
No, we work with legislation. You heard him quoting legislation. The Section 21 of the Schools Act allows the schools to then apply for any additional function if it were. So it does not require any consultation before the functions are reinstated or withdrawn. So we utilize the legislation.
Okay.
Section 25, prior to the amendment of the BELA, did not allow for appeal, but now they can appeal. So that communique they need to send to the HOD to say probably we are not ready to take this function, and we will then check on what is it that we can assist them with. But over and above that, we did not tamper with their allocation, so we don't need to mix the two. The two goes parallel. All those schools still get their allocation, meaning, a child, according to the law, we work as per the stipulated amount. Say in a school, how much you need to provide in terms of their population. That's why statistics, the numbers in education, are very key. We provide in the fee-paying schools over 838 rand per learner. Meanwhile, in the no-fee paying, we give them over 1,600 per learner. So those are the stipulated amounts which we provide to the.
So that's
to the schools. And we have informed him. We have responded to him, but he doesn't say that this is what we said.
okay, because what I heard is that there was not much that was said, that letters were sent, an appeal policy was followed through with, but nothing was told back. Let's move on from that because we're not going to agree about that. And unfortunately, I don't have you both on the line so that you can interact with each other.
No,
Let's
I
move.
don't need to interact with him because he has answers and he come here and lie.
Yeah, but an interaction isn't necessarily a fight or a debate. It's to also hold your end up of the story, and if that's a lie, to dispel the lie.
No, like as I'm saying, that it's quite sad that people ask you questions, you respond, they come on air, they give you baked meat.
Hang on, what we're doing now is that you're just talking about George dos Santos or Sérgio behind his back. I'm not interested in that. I want to talk about in cases like we're seeing now, please. So if we can move on. You've said allocations are still given. It doesn't quite answer about the arrears that are supposed to be paid. If that comes from the allocations to each of these schools, arrears stretch back over 90 days, well before April. So what is the plan or the recommendation for the debts incurred under the department's watch? What must the schools do now?
No, we interacted with the schools. What we did, because we received additional allocation from Treasury.
I see. Okay.
We then took that information on their debt. We then paid directly the municipalities and then allocated money to the schools. So that's what we have done. So the schools can't say they have a debt which they cannot pay.
Well, some SGBs are saying they only receive 25% of their annual allocation.
Because we paid their debt, because we utilized to pay their debt. Because municipalities, remember, they've been switching off. So for them not to be switched off, what we did, on top of the part of their money and the allocation that we got from Treasury after we pleaded with them that we have this problem of debt, we then paid.
So the debt was paid, but only 25% of the allocation was made for the students, for the books, for the teachers.
Yes, which is it's budget that they need to work around and make sure that things happen.
So you're expecting them to work around 25% of their annual allocation? No,
the annual allocation will include what they must pay for the municipality. What we did, we just did this thing on their behalf. We paid the debts on their behalf. But then the 25% they must utilize to pay other things that they would have been expected to pay them in the school. Because remember, like I said, the responsibility to pay municipality lies with the SGB unless we took those functions. If we didn't take any function, they must still pay municipality. They can't be saying, no, out of the allocation, we're going to take even the money that we're supposed to be paying the municipality and use it for something else. And then when the department take the money and pay the municipality, and then they say, no, the department gave us this percentage.
But wait a minute, you're saying something else, like it's to go buy the keep or to go to a movie. We're talking about quite critical resources that are needed in the school department. So help me understand how they're expected to already, with so many issues, so many children in one classroom, sharing of desks. I mean, the lists are endless. How are they expected to, with 25% of their annual allocation, continue what they're supposed to do in the school, yet also continue to pay the municipality as they've never had before?
No, where we took allocation, we give them learner materials. They don't have to buy. We, from the central office, give them the books. There's no school in Gauteng where we can go and say they don't have books. No, it doesn't happen that way. Because what we do, because we're going to be opening online admission, the statistics around October, November will give us an indication in terms of the grades 1 and 8 And also, our officials visit the schools to do what we call school readiness program. They will then go and check the statistics and bring it. Schools that need to be assisted with learner material, we do that on their behalf. So there's no school that can say, because we were given this allocation, there are no books, there are no tests. No, doesn't work that way.
So you're saying that everything is perfect in these schools that you're running?
Everything is perfect.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you very much, Steve Mabona, Gauteng Department of Education, saying everything is perfect in schools in Gauteng. Halala.